court's relying on the case of People versus Virgil, 51 Cal Court 1210. That case held that not every sidebar conference rises to the level of a constitutional violation. Trial courts retain broad power to control their courtrooms, to maintain security, protect the defendant's interests in a fair trial, protect the privacy concerns of prospective jurors, and to efficiently dispose of matters outside the hearing of jurors or testifying witnesses. Further, the Virgil rule cites the case of People versus Woodward, which held that, that's at Woodward 92 case, 4 Cal 4 376. The Woodward rule is that a partial or temporary exclusion of the public from certain proceedings, if justified, imposes no more than a de minimis restriction on the constitutional right to a public trial. Now, first, while recognizing the court's authority as the fact finder to question witnesses, the people have requested that if the court has significant or lengthy questions regarding a witness's testimony, that those concerns first be communicated to the people so that they can either conduct the inquiry themselves or explain to the court why a particular line of questioning might be prejudicial or not relevant. So that's one reason why I may do a sidebar conference outside the presence of the public. Second, the court has conducted sidebar conferences outside the presence of witnesses because the court finds that the witness who is currently testifying should not be influenced by a line of questioning that is potentially inadmissible. Third, throughout the preliminary hearing, the court has conducted sidebars outside the presence when it has concerns that the testimony could be inadmissible and the court does not want it stated on the record. This is obviously a high-profile court case. Potential jurors are no doubt watching the proceedings or reading about it, and the court does not want to jeopardize the defendant's right to a fair trial by allowing either party to publicly raise on the record clearly inadmissible issues or evidence that could influence potential jurors. Next, the 20-minute sidebar conference held this morning first addressed the format of the cell phone text message exhibits. The court and parties discussed back and forth whether there could be a stipulation regarding the foundational admission of the exhibits. Further, the defense renewed their hearsay objection regarding the incident where the defendant allegedly punched a hole in the wall. The objection was overruled. The statements are admissible pursuant to Evidence Code Section 1250. Additionally, the defense moved for exclusion of these statements made by Ms. Millete, arguing that the statements were made with impure motives. The court stated that those hearsay objections simply went to the weight and the trier. The court stated that those hearsay objections simply went to the weight that the trier of fact would give and not the admissibility of the statements. Also, the court did admonish the defense regarding its grasp of discovery and the level of preparedness for the hearing. Finally, the court did not seal the sidebar conference transcripts. The media retains its right to request and pay the regular fee for a copy of the sidebar transcripts. You may continue with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just give me 1 second, please.
Okay. It's on.
It's off.
Red light means
Red light's on.
off.
Off. There you go.
Ms. Tabalanza, we left off before
Not yet.
lunch.
Not yet, counsel.
I'm sorry.
Your client is Rob, you can tell I'm new to this court.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I came from our beloved South County Courthouse, now in downtown, in our new central, fairly new central courthouse, with all the great technology. All right, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Tabalanza, we were talking about Ms. Milete's physical absence. You believe it was just a physical absence between Mr. Millete and her, but that the marriage was not over when Ms. Millete moved into your home in May of 2020. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So you also testified earlier that Ms. Millete was really very organized, and she was a planner, and so she knew what she was doing, right?
Objection made.
Sustained.
When Ms. Millete asked you if she could move in with you and your family, did she indicate to you that she was not going to separate from Mr. Millete?
That's been asked and answered.
Did not, Your Honor. That she, I believe earlier, she said that Ms. Millete said she wants to separate, but now she's saying that it's only physical.
She's asked and answered that question.
Okay, so when Ms. Millete was staying with you in May of 2020, what was her demeanor? Was she sad? Was she crying? Was she giggling and talking on the phone constantly?
Can you please repeat the question?
When Ms. Millete was staying with you in May and June of 2020, what was her demeanor? Was she always on the phone? Was she sad? Was she crying, texting?
It depends. I mean, we're just normal. When she come home from work, she'll be on the phone. And she's happy when she stayed with us. She just keeps to herself. She goes to her room. And she joins us for dinner.
At the same time, was she going to work physically in the office?
Yes.
And that was, I believe you mentioned about COVID. So your office, SWARMAC, did not prohibit their employees from going to the office at that time.
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled, you can answer.
We can still go to the office. We just have to let our supervisor know so they can separate people.
Did you go to the office at that time?
Yes.
And Ms. Millete also went to the office during May and June of 2020?
Yes.
And she drove the Lexus to her office
Yes.
when she... You really don't know what car Miss Millete had. That you kept saying that she did have a Forerunner.
Objection to state's testimony.
Yes, it does. Sustained.
In fact, Miss Millete didn't have a Forerunner, if you can remember.
She drives the Lexus and then she drives the Forerunner which belongs to Papa Leo.
Are you sure of that?
That's what I know.
In fact, she doesn't have. Papa Leo didn't have a Forerunner. He did have a Highlander.
Oh,
Is that a question?
When Miss Millete was
All right, well,
Escuria.
That's argumentative. You don't have to answer. Next question.
You remember when you spoke to one of the Chula Vista officer, you told the officer that Maya always on the phone, giggling, texting, and asking you to watch her children. You recall that?
Yes.
How often did Miss Milete's children stay in your home?
I don't remember.
Can you give us an approximate once, twice?
Around maybe maybe twice a week or every other day.
And isn't it true that Miss Milete's children were hungry and you were serving them and not Miss Millete?
Counsel, that's vague. Is there a specific occasion you're talking about, or all the time? So you need to narrow
Okay.
your question.
During the time, once or twice a week, when the Millete children was or were at your house, isn't it true that you served them with food because they were hungry and they didn't go to their mother? You had to serve them.
That was that happened when we went to Lake Elsinore. They're usually already done eating when they come over to the apartment.
And isn't it true that it was your observation that Maya Millete was not engaged with her children? You remember that?
Objection vague is the time.
Sustained.
During the time that you had this interaction between Maya and her children and you in 2020, is it your observation that Miss Millete was not engaged with her children?
Objection vague is the time.
Sustained.
Did you say that to the officer when they were interviewing you or talking to you on the phone?
Well, she was in.
Sustained. By sustain a question, you're going to have to rephrase it. You have a follow-up question, so that your follow-up question can be understood by the witness.
You were testifying about a trip that Miss Millete went to Walmart. You recall that?
Yes.
And you in fact found out that she did not go to Walmart. True?
May told me she didn't make it to Walmart because she forgot her wallet.
And in fact, you decided to, in fact, you found out that she had an abortion instead of going to Walmart. Is that true?
Objection, lack of foundation, calls for hearsay.
Now you know why we do sidebars. Your response to the objection.
Your Honor.
It's lack of foundation,
Okay.
relevance, calls for hearsay.
calls for hearsay. Counsel.
Yeah, let me offer this proof, Your Honor.
To me,
Well, okay, let me just break it up.
the objection is sustained.
Okay. During that same time frame, isn't it true that Miss Millete told you she wanted to get a place of her own?
I have to think about it. I believe she did mention that she's looking for an apartment. But I don't remember the date.
Was that before she returned to their house in Paseo Los Gatos?
I believe so. It's one of our hype when she mentioned that.
when she moved in with you and your family, did she give you an idea of how long she was going to stay with you?
No.
Did you help her look for another place?
No.
Will you refer to a trip in Lake Elsinore? Do you remember when that was?
No.
But you went to Lake Elsinore in 2020?
Yes.
And during that time, you observed Miss Millete talking to someone on the phone, always on the phone. And you had to take care of Lazarus. Is that true?
Yes.
When did you determine that Miss Millete no longer wanted to stay married with Mr. Millete?
On January 1 of 2021.
Was that during the trip to Glamis?
Yes, in the trailer.
During 2020, was there a time wherein you unfriended Miss Maya Millete on your Facebook?
I don't remember.
In fact, do you remember talking to the officer sometime in January or 2020 that you were actually afraid of Maya?
No, I don't remember.
Question sounded vague at the time, but the witness has given an answer. So the answer stands.
Was there any time in 2020 where you became afraid of Miss Millete?
I don't remember.
When you were inside the trailer, New Year's trip to Glamis, when you heard Mr. Millete or Miss Maya Millete say to the effect that if something happened to her, it would be Larry, was that the exact words that Miss Millete used?
She said that if something happens to her, it would be Larry. That I stop answering his call when she files for divorce.
In fact, you told the officers when they were interviewing you after Miss Millete left in 2021 that you told them that Miss Millete said, you know how scary Mr. Millete is. If something happens, you know what.
I don't remember.
But at that time, when Miss Millete told you she wanted to get a divorce in 2021, in January 2021, you did not think that Mr. Millete was going to hurt Mrs. Millete. Isn't that right?
Right.
And the reason why you believed that was because you knew Mr. Millete loves Maya Millete very much. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Milete's employment at Swarmac that you described ended. Do you have any knowledge of the date that it ended?
No.
Could it have been in late June of 2020?
Possibly. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Do you know where she went after she left Swarmac?
You mean her new employer?
Her employment.
Yeah, she moved to Naiwik.
Did she share with you the reason why she moved to NIWC?
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
Okay, so what was the reason?
She said that at Swarmac we can only go up to, there's only one GS15 at Swarmac, but at Naiwik you can be promoted more. So she has more room to move up the career ladder.
When Miss Millete moved from Swarmac to NIWC, she actually got demoted, correct?
No, she's not demoted.
Isn't it true that she was a GS14? You testified earlier that she was a GS14. When she transferred to NIWC, her new position was a GS13.
Objection, lack of foundation and beyond the scope.
Sustained, lack of foundation beyond the scope, hearsay, relevance.
And subsequently, Miss Millete moved to NIWC. Then you followed her there too, correct?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled. Yes. And let me rephrase. Followed sounds smart. Argumentative.
You transferred from Swarmac to NIWC. Is that true?
Yes.
When did you do that?
December of 2020.
And when you transferred from Swarmac to NIWC, did you become a co-worker of Miss Millete?
No.
Were you working in the same building?
Yes.
Was Miss Millete working in your office building in December of 2020?
I don't know. I checked in late December 2020.
Was that sometime during Christmas time?
Yes.
And you did not see each other at the NIWC office?
No.
You also stated earlier that when Miss Millete moved in with you in your home, she slept with your mother-in-law or with her mother,
Yes, on the same bed.
and her mother's name is Naomi Tabalanza.
Yes.
So Miss Naomi Tabalanza knew that Miss Millete was staying with you.
Objection, relevance.
Sustained. You don't have to answer.
Did the other members of the Tabalanza family know that Miss Millete was staying with you and your family in May and June of 2020?
Yes.
Objection, hearsay relevance.
Sustained, the answer stricken.
When Miss Millete was staying with you in May and June of 2020, did you have an occasion to invite Mr. Millete to join you for dinner in your house?
I did not. I don't. We don't formally invite. They can just come over and join us for dinner.
Did he do that?
I don't remember.
Now, let's go to this scenario where Mr. Millete and you were texting on or about June 27, 2020, and he texted you and said he caught Miss Millete and Jamie together. Do you recall that?
I recall a text message that they're both inside the white truck.
And he sent you a photograph.
Just a picture of the vehicle.
So the vehicle that was on the photograph, did he say which vehicle they were in?
I have to look at the text message again.
Can the witness take a look at the...
Would that help you refresh your recollection?
Your Honor, I just remember that he sent me a picture of the truck, and then he told me that Jamie and May was inside the truck.
Does that answer your question?
I just wanted to know how many trucks were in the picture.
One.
And Mr. Millete didn't say the make of the truck, right?
No.
Okay. He just sent you the picture, but he didn't explain what was showing in the picture, except you saw a picture of a truck.
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
How long were you and Mr. Millete texting back and forth during that moment when he said he saw Miss Millete with her boyfriend?
I don't remember. I just remember maybe it's in the afternoon.
Did he relate to you what he did that day?
He asked me if he's gonna approach, and I said don't approach. Just don't do nothing. Don't do anything. And then he texted me, ended up asking the person, what are you doing with my wife? That's what he texted me.
And then the next thing you know, they were at your house? Your apartment, I'm sorry.
Yes, I believe so.
And when they arrived, can you describe Mr. Millete's demeanor?
He was just quiet. And then Maya has swollen eyes from crying. They just went inside and picked up her stuff.
And Mr. Millete didn't say a word to you?
I don't remember, but we would always say thank you, or maybe he said a goodbye, but I remember both of them saying thank you.
To your knowledge, when Mr. Millete and Mrs. Millete arrived at your house, did they explain to you why they are leaving and moving back to their house?
No, we feel awkward asking that question, so we just let them be.
You don't really know the reason why Miss Millete was crying that day, do you?
You can just say yes or no.
No.
Did you try to comfort Mrs. Millete at that moment when she was crying?
Objection relevance.
Sustained. I think it's time to move on, counsel.
Oh, okay, good. That's fine. When Miss Millete packed up and left your residence, were you surprised that she was going back with Mr. Millete?
Asked and answered.
After they left your house, did you have an occasion to talk to Miss Millete the next day?
No. I don't remember. With things like that, and she's private, we're private with our marriage problems, I don't feel it's appropriate to ask her.
And you did not continue hiking, walking, jogging with her anymore after June of 2020?
That was the end of June, so no. But maybe I believe I still went hiking with her. I just don't remember when.
Do you remember how many times did you go hiking with her?
When
You
she,
don't have to answer now. Not relevant.
Okay. During the hiking times or periods that you were experiencing her company,
Mhm.
did she relate to you any worries or problems in their marriage?
Can you please rephrase the question?
During that period of time when you were hiking or jogging with her, did she share any concerns of marital problems?
Objection vague as to time.
Do you understand? I guess after the June move out, while you were while you hiked on whatever number of occasions, did you discuss the nature of the marriage?
Oh, sorry, Your Honor. I'm trying to think. There were times where she would tell me that Larry would grow back inside her, so it gives me the impression that, oh, okay, so they're working things together. And then I don't recall if she complained about him again.
During that same period of time that we're now just talking about, did you have any concerns about Miss Milete's safety?
No.
And the same period of time that we're just talking about now, that Mr. Millete call or text you, raising or discussing marital problems.
I'm not clear with your question. I mean, can you please specify which specific topic? I mean, they're still having problems during the 2020, but when she left our apartment, and I referred them to the marriage counselor. I I don't. I believe there's working it together.
So Mr. Millete stopped calling you 40 times a day or texting you how many times a day during that period of time?
I have to check my phone. I mean, it wasn't very clear. I mean, we still text. It decreased, but we still text and check in.
And it's no longer every day or every other day or constantly? Where you described earlier that he was calling you constantly and texting you in May and June, and when did that stop?
My counsel, that's,
Okay.
that's compound, and I have an adequate grasp of the continuum, and when there were a lot of calls and text messages, and when it kind of subsided, so you can move on.
Okay. Can I
don't know
just...
if there's anything else that you need
Okay.
to cover on cross, but I want you to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. In November of 2020, you did go for another trip. Was that in Glamis?
Can you please repeat?
In November of 2020, you attended a trip with Mr. Millete and his family. Was that in Glamis?
If that's the Thanksgiving, yes, in Glamis.
And Mr. and Mrs. Millete were in good terms during those days when you went to the trip?
Objection vague, lack of foundation, calls for speculation.
No, overall, you can answer if you know, if you were there and you saw the type of interaction that they had.
They just act normal. I mean,
You did not discern any hostility or fighting and arguments?
I did not notice that.
And in this New Year's trip, describe, was there a difference in their behavior between November 2020 and the New Year's trip of 2021?
I heard they have disagreement about the Jeep.
What about that? Can you?
We're very private. I don't really want to ask what it is. So we're also there to enjoy the weekend. So I'm not for trying to just add more fire to the fire. So just let it be.
So you did not observe any violent conduct or arguing, fighting?
I was inside the trailer. Maybe they did fight, but I didn't see it.
Okay. When you were inside the trailer with Mrs. Millete, what was her demeanor?
Objection vague, the time.
Sustained.
During your trip to Glamis during the New Year's 2021, you testified earlier that you were in the trailer with Mrs. Millete. What did you observe as far as Miss Millete's demeanor?
She's just being May inside the trailer. I mean, the main topic that we talked about in the trailer is that she wanted to file the divorce. So that's about it. I don't know what you want.
Was she in a panic, or did she express like it's really urgent that she has to file this divorce?
She looks that she's made up her mind that this is it, I'm going to divorce.
And after she said that, she did not follow up with withdraw that, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Counsel, can you say that again?
She's withdrawing.
Just withdraw
Oh,
that.
that's what she said.
Did she discuss what terms she wanted for her divorce during the time that you were discussing the divorce inside the trailer?
No.
What were you discussing with her when she told you that if something happens to her, it would be Larry?
She just made it clear to me that she will file a divorce after Larry's birthday party, and that if Larry calls me, do not answer his phone call.
So she said that to you after if something happens to me, it's Larry. She just said, if Larry calls you, do not take the calls?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled. I guess I need to know if she said don't answer his phone calls before she said she was filing for divorce, or if she said don't answer his phone calls after she said she was filing for divorce. Is that what you're trying to figure out? The sequence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the sequence. If you remember.
She said that after Larry's birthday party, I'm gonna file for divorce. And then if Larry tries to call you, do not answer the phone call. Something happens to me, it will be Larry.
Did Larry attempt to call you after the New Year's trip?
I don't remember.
Did you call him during Christmas time?
No relevance, counsel.
Okay. So that was New Year trip to Glamis. When you left Glamis, do you recall seeing May and Mr. Milete's family departing as well, or you left earlier?
I don't see the relevance.
I just wanted to establish, Your Honor, the exact time that she saw Miss Milete physically.
The last time?
Okay. When did you last see Miss Milete physically?
In the trailer, January 1, 2021.
When Maya told you that she herself got good at lying, do you recall that? You testified earlier that she said that to you, that she got good at lying. What was your response?
I asked her what she means by that. Well, Your Honor, she was just pouring out her feelings to me during that time, so I wouldn't recall if it's the exchange, but the main theme of it is that she needed space. And then when I asked her, like, can you go to the hospital, what's your driving force for divorce? And she said that I don't want to keep lying in front of the kids, and that's not the exposure that I want them to see growing up.
Any time in the year 2020, do you know of any event wherein Miss Milete lied to you?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Objection calls for hearsay.
Yes, sustained.
After she lied to you, did you then doubt what she was saying to you?
Objection, relevance.
Oh. You can answer.
Did I doubt what she tells to me? No. I was human, so if you lied to me, I would feel hurt. But her credibility to me remains good.
But it was true that you unfriended her on the Facebook after she lied to you.
I don't remember.
Did she, at any time after she left your house or apartment, did she admit to you that she was having an affair with a co-worker?
No.
When Larry told you that his wife was having an affair with a co-worker, did you believe him?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained in it. It is sustained.
Okay.
Relevance.
I want to ask you about the spellcasters. When did you and Larry start talking about spellcasters? Was that after Miss Millete returned to their home?
I believe so, yes.
Do you remember what month?
No.
So how did that start?
Larry texted me.
And it would be in this text thread it would be in the text thread that you submitted. Can you recall the date without looking at the exhibit?
That's hard to ask.
Okay, Yana, can I
Yeah.
just...
I also have my own problems in life, so
If you look at Exhibit 13-4,
You have a question?
yes, Shannon, she was still looking down, so I didn't know whether she was finished.
oh, I'm ready for your question.
Okay, so Exhibit 13-4 has a September 15, 2020 date in around 1934. That would be 7 o'clock in the evening. You recall that?
Yes, according to this binder.
Did Larry call you that time, or did he text you, or was it you that texted him?
I remember that he texted me. I don't recall if we had a conversation, we might have. But usually at 7 o'clock, I'm busy with the kids for dinner.
Okay. And prior to September 15, 2020, you and Mr. Millete did not discuss about spellcasters, if you can remember.
I can't remember, so I believe it's this one, September 15.
Do you recall discussing with Mr. Millete about your mother being a spellcaster or something in that nature?
My mother is not.
That's not relevant.
Well, let me ask her, did you suggest to Mr. Millete about spellcasting?
Absolutely not. I referred them to our church, to our pastor, that maybe they can help, our pastor can help with their marriage. So I would never recommend spellcaster.
When Larry spoke to you about spell casting, did he tell you how he came about trying to contact spellcasters?
Calls for your sake.
Can you please repeat that
No,
question?
no, she doesn't get to ask that
Oh.
question.
Okay. In September 15 of 2020, did Mr. Millete, as far as you can remember, did he consult with your pastor already or not?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
What was your understanding that Mr. Millete was going to do with the spellcaster?
Objection relevance as to what this witness thought.
Sustained, you can rephrase.
Okay.
Did he tell you what the spells were for?
He said it's only white magic. So no black or voodoo.
Did you understand what that meant?
Guess nothing harmful.
Thank you. You also discussed with Ms. Millete the white noise, characterized as white noise. And was it Mr. Millete who told you about the white noise, or was it Mrs. Millete?
It was Larry. He texted me.
And he shared that with you.
Yes, he told me that May found the subliminals.
Did you have an understanding of what was contained in the subliminals?
I remember that we talk over the phone so he can explain it to me what it is.
And he did explain it to you,
Yes.
and you understood it?
He said it's a white noise.
And how did he explain the white noise to you? I mean, in terms of, did he tell you what the messages were?
I don't remember. He just told me what's a subliminal.
Why was Miss Millete offended or complaining about the white noise?
Objection lack of foundation.
Sustained,
Okay.
calls for speculation. Well,
Was it your understanding that Miss Millete heard the subliminal messages?
I don't know. Larry told me she found the subliminals and that made me upset, very upset.
And that's all you know about the subliminal.
Yes, ma'am.
You do not know the contents of the messages.
Objection asked and answered.
sustained.
I want to ask you about the this holes in the walls inside Mr. Millete's home. Did you have an understanding who put the holes in the walls?
May told me that when she was in January of 2020. She's the one that mentioned about the scars on the walls, and I asked her what scars.
And her response?
She said that Larry punched the wall when he gets angry, and I said I don't see any scars, and she said, oh, we would patch it.
Did you see the patching?
I didn't look for it.
Okay. Did she say how many holes were made in the wall?
No,
Did she say which wall?
no.
And was she afraid of Larry because of those scars?
She was more sad. She was just really, really sad.
She was sad when she saw the scars.
She was sad when she was pouring out her feelings to me.
And how many times did she express that to you?
I feel like you're torturing me. I have explained to you on January of 2020.
Excuse me. Yeah, can we take a recess?
If you don't remember, I'm not going to let this go on much further. It's almost over. Just make sure you use it. Did you need to take a break like this? We're going to take a break. Court's in recess. If the prosecution does cover an issue in direct examination, you have a right to conduct cross-examination. However, you need to limit it.
Okay.
This witness has been on the stand all day today, and she started yesterday afternoon, and you've covered every topic with excruciating detail that I don't believe is really necessary for a preliminary hearing. So I'd like you to conclude your cross-examination as soon as possible.
I just have a few more questions, Shawna. I'm not sure if she's still upset, so I'm not sure if I should even proceed because she said it, of what she said. I'm concerned
Well,
about.
I've told you my concerns, do what you need to do, and I'll rule accordingly if there's an objection.
I just have one question, if you'd allow me, just that one, and that's, unless the cross would bring up some other issues, then I do.
Proceed.
Okay.
Speak to the microphone, to counsel.
Ms. Tabalanza, Ms. Larry Millete told you in 2020 that he just wanted to keep their relationship together,
Yes.
and that Larry, Mr. Millete, was willing to do anything to make May love him again.
Objection called.
Is that what she told you?
Sustained.
When you last saw Miss Millete, was it your understanding that Mr. and Mrs. Millete were still okay?
When I was jeeping with her, I thought that they were okay. But then when she told me that, while Larry was asking for affection, it's just hard for me to give that. That was during when we were jeeping until we went to the trailer in the afternoon, and that's when she told me that she wanted to divorce.
That's it, John.
I have no questions.
Okay, all right, now. Thank you. Back in the picture. Next.
People called Derek Sopp.
Come on up this way. I want you to stand right here, raise your right hand, face the young lady over there in black.
Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony provided in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Nice and clear, nice and low. Don't talk too fast, as you may get up 31%. So wait for the attorney's official. Just answer, okay? All right, thank you.
So can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Derek John Sopp. Last name is S-O-P-P.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Sopp, where do you work?
I work for the NAVC Southwest Regional Maintenance Center, or SWMIC.
Can you spell NAVSE for our court reporter here?
Yes, it's N-A-V-S-E-A.
Did
Do you know someone by the name of May Millete?
I do.
Showing up on the screen, 3-1. You recognize who's in that photo?
That would be May.
Did you know her by May or Maya?
May.
And how did you meet May?
She worked for me at Swarmick.
Tell us a little bit about that. What do you do at Swarmac?
I'm the chief of the contracting office. I basically oversee the contracts department. And she was one of my division heads from 2017 to about 2020.
What does that mean? What were her duties?
So specifically, she was my policy and support division head. So she came up with policies and procedures for all of the contracting officers that work for me to follow in carrying out their jobs.
What kind of employee was she?
She was a great employee.
Was she a supervisor?
She was, yes.
What can you talk at all about the pay scale within the government and what pay scale she was at?
And so she was on the general schedule. So she was which goes from GS1 to GS15, and she was GS14.
Do you happen to know, as of 2020, what that salary would look like, even just in an approximate?
GS14 at that time probably started around 130, 140,000 maybe.
Did you ever meet her husband, Larry Millete?
I did.
Do you see him in court today?
Yes.
Could you point to him and tell us what he's wearing for the record?
And he's wearing a black suit and a mask.
When did you, could the record reflect that the witness identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
When did you meet the defendant?
First time was in February of 2020.
What were the circumstances of that meeting?
He had come to pick up me for lunch that day, and we had a random incident at work where a woman was calling around to various points of contact at the command and accusing or having accusations of May having an affair with a subordinate.
And as a result of those calls, did you have some sort of meeting with the defendant?
Yes, so it was clear to me that at that time it seemed that there was a misunderstanding, and since May was there and Larry was there and the subordinate employee was there, called them all into my office to get it cleared up.
Did you think that meeting resulted in kind of clearing it up at that time?
It seemed to.
Subsequent to that meeting, did you receive any emails from the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us about that?
As probably a few weeks later, I got an email from Larry asking me to move one of May's other subordinate employees out of her division into another division
And how did he communicate with you?
via email.
Was that unusual?
It was very unusual.
Why?
I've never had an employee's significant other reach out to me for anything before.
Do you recall what the date was of that first email?
I do not.
Did you end up providing a copy of that to law enforcement?
I did.
Was there a second email after the first one?
Yes.
What was the subject matter of the second email?
It was the same. I had not responded to the first one, so it was a follow-up email.
And what was the request in the second email?
Again, to move the other subordinate employee to another division.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Because,
Because to direct him to Exhibit 29.
yes.
see Courts Exhibit 29-1 in front of you in the binder?
I do.
Do you recognize that?
I do.
What do you recognize it to be?
The email that Larry sent to me.
What's the number again?
29-1. On the screen, 29-1, is that the same exhibit that is in the binder in front of you?
Yes.
This is a copy of the email that you provided to law enforcement.
Yes.
And what was the date and time of the email?
Monday, February 24th, 2020 at 1:38 p.m.
And could you read the email?
Yeah, so the subject said inquiry, and the body of the email said, "Good afternoon, Derek. I would like to request to have Eric Kogan move to another division if at all possible. I know it's no easy task, but I'm trying to help May get her bearings back and focused. I've always stayed away from her professional life, but she's been going through a lot these couple of months, and I think it would help her reset herself and our relationship as well. It will be our 20th wedding anniversary this year on May, and would like to have 20 plus more. If you're not able to, I understand. I just wanted to thank you for looking after my wife. I really do appreciate it. Brother. VR, Larry Millete."
And is VR a common signature in the military?
Yes.
What does that refer to?
Very respectful.
Did you have any kind of personal friendship with the defendant?
No.
Prior to that one meeting that you had discussed a little bit earlier in February, had you ever had any contact with him?
No.
So this isn't somebody that you had any, did you go to May and Larry's house for like dinner, have any kind of personal friendship with him at all?
No.
Did you respond to this email?
I did not.
Was there any particular reason why you did not?
I know that they'd been having some problems and that they were trying to work through them, and I figured hopefully by not responding, they would work it out amongst themselves.
And then showing you 29-2, it's 2 pages. Do you recognize what's shown in that exhibit?
Yes, that's the second email in my response.
Okay. And is that also an email that you provided to law enforcement?
It is.
Projecting up on the screen, 29-2, is that the same exhibit that is in front of you?
It is.
And so the email that is sent, is it kind of begins at the bottom of this email stream?
Correct.
Sent February 27th at 3:06 p.m.
Yes.
And what, if you could read that email to us.
All right. Subject is request. Body of the email says, "Good afternoon, Derek. Please assign Eric Kogan to another division. Today is another example of how he creates an excuse for May to assist him yet again with a project he was assigned, which takes away hours from her own important projects. She has gotten a little too personal with him. She is trying to set a tone of professionalism to reflect your leadership style. I apologize in advance for the awkwardness of this situation, but it's putting quite a strain on our relationship. She's abashed to request it herself because she thinks you'll see it as ridiculous, which isn't, but would really help. Again, my apologies for reaching out and overstepping some boundaries. VR, Larry Millete."
And then how did you respond?
Oh, I responded same day at 3:47 p.m. I said, "Larry, I know you two are working through things right now, and that the false accusations made last week didn't help any, but directing a personnel move based on a person's gender coupled with unfounded suspicion is not a reasonable solution. Eric hasn't done anything wrong, so it wouldn't be fair to Eric. I'm not surprised Eric approached May with a request for assistance today, considering his direct supervisor is out of the office, meaning May is next in his chain of command. May is a supervisor. Her primary responsibility is to provide guidance to her team as needed and address performance issues if they arise. RDS.
And that was your email response?
Yes.
And then did the defendant send an email in response to your email back to him at 3:47?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And is that the one at the top of this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could just read what his email back to you at 3:53 was.
He said, "You're absolutely right. Trying to convince May to take a little RR, but due to her obligations, it's quite difficult to persuade her. Again, my apologies for awkwardness of the situation. VR, Larry."
Now, did you have any, well, let me ask you this. With regard to May and her job performance, did you have any concerns about her job performance at that time?
Not at all.
What do you mean by that?
She was one of my best employees.
Did May ever come to you to indicate that she needed R&R or that she wanted to work away from certain individuals?
No.
After, well, at any point did May confide in you that there were some issues happening at home?
She did.
When was that?
It was prior to the February meeting at some point.
And what was the context of that?
I was at the time I used to hold a daily end of days meeting with all of my division heads, and that particular day she looked very different. She was very looked very worn down. Something was weighing heavy on her, and so after the meeting I walked down the hall to her office just to check in on her, and she confided that her and Larry were possibly separating.
And do you recall when that was? Would that have been?
It was either late 2019 or very early 2020.
Did she share any specifics about what was going on between her and the defendant?
Yeah, she gave a few examples of why, some issues she was having with his behavior, saying that he insisted on her always having her phone location turned on so he could always track where she was. She also said that he restricted her access to her financial accounts and funds, and insisted on controlling the money.
She mentioned anything about social media?
Yes, she also said that he insisted on having all of her passwords for all of her accounts so that he could go in and see who she was talking to and what they were talking about.
Was it unusual for an employee, and in particular May, to confide these things in you?
Yes.
Was May typically someone who would discuss personal issues with you?
Not up to that point.
And what was was there a particular reason, either that she said or that was there a reason that you were aware of as to why she was telling you these things?
I could just see on her face something was very wrong that day. She was not her normal self, and she looked like she needed to talk to someone.
At some point in 2020, did May leave to go to Nywick?
She did.
And did you have any conversation with her about that move?
We had several conversations about that move.
What was, did you want to see her leave Swarmek?
No, I basically was asking if there's any other positions she'd be interested in that might persuade her to stay.
Were you able to persuade her to stay?
I was not.
And do you know why it was that she was making the move to Nywick?
So she gave two reasons. One was she wanted to try something different, and the other reason was she believed it would be best for her marriage.
Did she expand on that any more?
No, I knew what she was referring to.
When you say that, is that in reference to the emails and the February?
That and the accusations from February, she was very embarrassed about that and I think wanted to get away from it.
In your experience with May, was she professional at work?
Very much so.
Did she did she have a good work ethic?
Yes,
Did she seem concerned about her reputation?
absolutely.
Did you receive a text message from May Millete on January 6, 2021?
I did.
What was the nature of that text message?
The text was simple. It just said, do you have something like, do you have a sec to talk? And I responded back right away. I'm like, yeah, I'm free now.
Had you spoken to May since she left and started working at Nywick?
We had emailed once or twice regarding work stuff, things related to like contracting. Hey, had you seen this before?
And fair to say that you had a good working relationship with May?
Yes.
When she left, would you say she left on good terms with you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you tell me exactly when did she leave? If you remember.
It was middle of 2020, I believe.
Just for the court's knowledge, we will be having another witness who will be her boss from her command at Nywick, and I think he'll be able to provide that information. So the text, do you recall what time that text message was?
I do not.
Morning, afternoon?
I was at work, so
Would it refresh your memory to take a look at a screenshot of the message?
it would.
Mayor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Counsel, I'm referring to bait stamp 4601 for your reference, Ms. Martinez.
Excuse me?
4601, I'm referring to bait stamp 4601. And to just show you this exhibit, it's a little bit small, I'm not sure how your eyesight is. But you can take a look at that screenshot and see if that refreshes your memory as to the time.
Yes, it was at 11:20 a.m.
After you got that text message asking if you had some time to talk, did you actually have a conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
Counsel, I don't have 46. It's not in the one that
It's bait stamp 4601. It's from the discovery, not an exhibit.
No exhibit.
Oh, it's not, okay.
Page 46.
Oh, okay.
So she says you have a moment to talk, and you said, I can talk now if you're free.
Yes.
And what did you think the conversation was going to be about?
I honestly had hoped maybe she wanted to come back.
Okay. And did she call you
She did.
when you began talking to her? Did you notice anything about her voice, her demeanor?
Yes, it was very shaky. It sounded like she'd been crying.
What did she say?
She said she was calling to just give me a heads up that she and Larry were, or that she was going to divorce Larry and she hired an attorney, and that Larry had found out, and she wanted to give me a heads up that he had threatened to ruin her professionally, and she wasn't sure, what exactly that meant, but she feared that it might involve dredging back up the incident that happened back in February of 2020 with the accusations,
And why did she want you to know?
just so it wouldn't blindside me out of nowhere.
A couple days later, did you learn that there were reports that May was missing?
I did.
When was that? And if it's helpful, there's a calendar of 2021 right behind you with Thursday, January 7th.
I don't remember the specific day.
Okay. As a result of, do you know about kind of approximately when it would have been?
I think it was on the 10th.
when you, well, after learning that she was missing, did you send an email out at work?
I did.
What was the nature of that email?
Basically just letting everyone know. I knew that she had a lot of friends at Sormic, and just wanted to make sure everyone was aware.
While she worked there, did you know that she had developed some close friendships with people at Swarmac?
Yes.
And would you say she was well respected at Swarmac?
Yes.
Well liked?
Yes.
And who did you send this email to?
To my whole department.
How many people is that?
At that time, it was probably about 150 maybe.
And did you ask whether or not anyone had heard from May?
I don't recall if I said anything about it in the email.
Would it refresh your memory to take a look at a summary of a report, or a summary of a statement that you gave to the Tulip Police Department?
It would.
Show you a document. This is page 33 of Detective Vicente's report, dated January 22nd, 2021. Want to approach the witness?
You may.
I am going to direct your attention to the bottom line. It's actually highlighted. And ask you to read that and then let me know if that refreshes your memory.
Sopp also put out a department-wide.
No, sorry, read it to yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think I have the same exhibit on.
It's not an exhibit, it's part of the discovery. The discovery.
Oh, this
The discovery.
number one.
Page 83 of the discovery.
83.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. And did you in the email ask whether or not anyone had any knowledge of May's whereabouts?
Yes.
And what did you ask?
I don't remember from the email.
Did anybody respond to you with any information to that they had seen or heard from May?
No.
And after your telephone call with May on January 6, 2021, have you had any communication from her or with her?
I texted her the day that I found out that she was missing, just to see if she was okay.
Did you hear back from her?
No, I did not.
Have you heard from her? In other words, have you spoken with her, communicated with her, actually talked to her since January 6th?
No.
Thank you. No other questions?
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Sopp.
Good afternoon.
In 2020, was Ms. Millete working remotely because of COVID?
Not full-time. More situational telework, I believe.
So, can you explain her schedule before COVID?
She was on site.
From 8 to 5?
Generally.
Then when COVID put a restraint on the work environment, was she still working in the office in March, April, and May?
Yes, she
Right.
was.
This is beyond the scope of direct examination. The answer is stricken.
Okay. When Ms. Millete called you on January 6, 2021, was she working at your office?
No, she worked for Nywick.
Okay, so when she called you, she was already working for Nywick.
Yes.
Okay. in February of 2020, was there only one allegation of Miss Millete having an affair?
One that I was aware of.
Okay. And the party that was alleged having an affair with her is a subordinate.
Yes.
And I believe it was in your letter that was shown up here on the screen, Eric Kogan. Is that right?
That was not the employee from that accusation.
So Mr. Millete was mistaken when he had written you that letter alleging that she was having an affair with Eric Kogan.
Objection misstates the testimony.
How so, counsel?
I
You're
don't
gonna have to
believe,
explain it.
I don't believe anyone alleged that she had an affair with Eric Hogan. I don't think that,
Is that the individuals in the email?
yes, I
Okay, all right.
think it was described as getting close, but I don't know that it was described as an affair.
Okay, then that
I'm
misstates.
hesitant to go into too much of a speaking objection. I can respond more if the court would like, but
You may. If we just need to, as long as it is the right person being identified, I'm not going to quibble over the affair allegation. I just want to make sure that we're referring to the correct person.
well, and I guess I think that my objection is that it misstates the testimony because the question was whether or not Larry was mistaken when he sent an email alleging an affair between May and Eric Hogan. And my objection is that the emails don't allege an affair, just that she was getting a little too personal with him. And so,
And then the witness also said there was another person, so it's not Eric who's the target of that allegation. All right. I'll sustain the objection. This states the witness's testimony. You can ask it again.
When Mr. Millete, strike that. When Mrs. May Millete called you on January 6, 2021, and informed you that Mr. Millete was going to reopen this investigation, what did you understand at that time that Ms. Millete was referring to?
I believe she was referring to the accusations that came up in February of 2020 when that individual was making phone calls to various points of contact within the NAVC SWARMEC.
And did you believe that it would be the same person that was accused of having some sort of a relationship at that time in February 2020, or was it a different person?
objection vague.
Sustained. It was compounded.
Okay. In 2020, February 2020, there was an investigation because a woman reported some sort of a affair or relationship or improper relationship in your department, correct?
Correct.
This woman did not appear before you to explain what is it that she is alleging, correct?
Well, she alleged that there was an affair.
Just yes or no. The question was, did the woman appear before you to explain the allegations?
No.
And did you learn who that woman is?
I did.
Did you call that woman to interview her or obtain a statement as to what caused her to report such an allegation?
No.
So there was no contact with the person who made the report.
No.
Did anybody from your group or outside your group ever contact that woman?
I don't know.
As far as you know, what was the extent of the investigation?
I do not know.
Before Ms. Millete called you on January 6, 2021, did you gain any more knowledge or information regarding the alleged improper conduct?
No.
Did you ask Ms. Millete regarding the nature of why Mr. Millete was going to reopen the investigation?
No.
Was it your impression while talking to Ms. Millete on January 6, 2020, that Ms. Millete believes that she was going to have difficulties if Mr. Millete reopened the investigation?
Objection, misstates the testimony, January 6, 2021.
I'm sorry, 2020.
It's 2021 that the conversation
Yes,
is.
January 6, 2021.
So, I'll ask your question.
Let me ask you. During the conversation that you had with Ms. Millete on January 6, 2021, did you get an impression that Ms. Millete was concerned that if Mr. Millete...
I don't know.
So when she was saying that Mr. Millete was going to reopen this investigation, you had no fear that it would affect her job?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
When she gave you the information regarding Ms. Millete's intent to reopen this investigation, was it in your belief that it was going to affect you or SWARMAC, since she was now working for NIWC?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled. You can answer.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Your Honor, can I have it right back, please?
Yes.
Question. When she gave you the information regarding Ms. Millete's intent to reopen this investigation, was it your belief that it was going to affect you or SWARMAC since she was now working for NIWC?
I wasn't concerned for myself or SWARMAC.
At that time, same time that she was talking to you, you do not know if there was any allegations of improper conduct at NIWC, correct?
No.
Did you know or you didn't know?
At Nywick?
Objection,
At
Life
none.
Foundation, relevance, hearsay.
You're at 9.
SWARMAC.
You're at Swarmic, and she's asking about 9.
Yes.
Sustained.
How long were you speaking to Ms. Millete on the phone on January 6, 2021?
Say anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes probably.
Did you ask her any questions at the time?
I don't recall.
Did it surprise you that Ms. Millete contacted you on January 6, 2021?
No.
Did you talk to her regularly after she left your office?
We sent a few emails back and forth regarding contracting related topics.
And so you kept in contact with her?
Yes.
And during the time that, from the time she left your office at Swarman until the time that you spoke to her on January 6, 2021, how many times did you communicate with her?
I don't know the exact number.
Can you give me an estimate? Once a week or monthly?
Objection, relevance.
So you don't have to answer.
Did you understand what Miss Millete meant when she told you that Mr. Millete was going to ruin her profession? Or she would be ruined professionally?
I had a general idea.
Which would be what?
Objection, relevance. As to what he thought.
Overall, you can.
Just as I mentioned, when she was about to leave Swarmick, she was clearly embarrassed about the whole situation and the accusations that came up in February of 2020. Those accusations weren't like widely spread or anything, so I expect she was afraid that whatever that meant that would be, those accusations to be spread more widely and tarnish her reputation.
In 2020, during the time that you became aware of the allegations of improper conduct in your department, did you have a chance to speak to the person that was in fact suspected of having the improper conduct with Mr. Millete?
All right. Relevance beyond the scope.
You were investigating the allegations, or did some department was assigned to investigate the allegations of improper conduct?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Was NCIS involved in the investigation?
Objection, asked and answered, lack foundation.
Sustained.
Were you the only one investigating the allegations?
Objection, misstates testimony.
Asked and answered.
When Ms. Millete accepted a position at NIWC, was that a GS-13 position?
I don't recall.
What was Ms. Millete's description when she told you about Mr. Millete's plans of reopening the investigation? Did she describe Mr. Millete's behavior? Was he angry at her or threatened her?
She just said that he was upset when he found out that she had hired a divorce lawyer.
Mr. Millete was upset because she hired a divorce lawyer? Is that what she told you?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that you knew that Mr. Millete was in fact erroneous in assuming that Mr. Coogan was the alleged employee that was having a relationship with Miss Millete?
Objection vague. Relevance?
Sustained, vague, relevance, calls for speculation.
Well, you knew that Mr. Millete was mistaken about the person that was
Same.
alleged, though.
Same grounds.
Okay.
Objection sustained.
When Miss Millete was speaking to you about her problems in February 2020, was it your understanding that Miss Millete and Mr. Millete were separated?
My understanding was that they were in the process of separating prior to February.
Do you recall that Miss Millete told you that the allegations about the affair was not true?
Yes.
Do you recall the person that was accused of having the misconduct came to you and told you the truth?
Objection calls for calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you gain knowledge that the allegations of affair with a subordinate was actually true at some time during 2020?
Objection, relevance, hearsay.
Sustained. Both grounds.
As you sit here today, you have no knowledge that Miss Millete was having an affair or not.
Same objection.
Sustained. Same grounds.
You made a statement to an officer of the Chula Vista Police Department that the allegations that were brought forward would in fact tarnish her career. Why did you say that?
I think anyone that would have an affair with a subordinate that's made public would tarnish their reputation.
Would that be grounds for termination of employment?
No.
When you were speaking to Ms. Millete on January 6, 2021, did you feel that she was stressed because of the possibility of reopening the investigation?
Asked and answered.
You testified earlier that Ms. Millete was an excellent employee, right?
Yes.
And she was well organized and she was good in planning.
Yes.
But did she have to travel related to her position at SWARMAC?
It's outside the scope.
Okay. during 2020, did you allow civilian people or civilian personnel to come into the Swarmac building without any permit?
Objection relevance.
If Mr. Millete.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, counsel, what's the relevance of this question?
Well, there's some allegations that Mr. Millete was going to Swarmac and knocking at the window, and our position is he's knocking so that Ms. Millete would let him into the building, not to harass or to bother Ms. Millete.
Did anyone testify to that?
I have not elicited that testimony at this hearing.
All right. The relevance objection is sustained.
Your witness.
I have no redirect.
May the witness be excused. Thank you very much for coming in, sir. Next witness.
The people call JP Tabalanza.
Seeing we kind of took our break early.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Do you perjury that the testimony you provide in this matter would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Walk right around there. Take a seat in that chair right there all by itself,
Could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is JP, last name Tabalanza. Spelled Tabalanca.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Counsel.
Thank you.
Note that if you ask questions covering subjects from A through Z, and you ask 5 questions for each letter, we're gonna get 15 questions on cross for every time.
I have that in mind, my director. Mr. Tabalanza, do you recognize the person in 3-1 on the screen?
Yes, I do.
Who's that?
It's my younger sister.
How do you refer to her, May or Maya?
I prefer her Tommy, I call her.
Tanny?
Yes.
We've heard testimony from your siblings about the background of your family, that you get together often for holidays and birthdays. And that was no different in 2020. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you, during the course of some of those events, have occasion to talk to your brother-in-law, May's husband?
Yes, I do.
And do you see her husband, Larry Millete, here in court?
Yes.
And could you point to him and identify what he's wearing for the record?
He's wearing a suit with I think it's a blue tie with a mask and a hat on.
The record reflect the witness identified the defendant.
Record so reflect.
During 2020, would you say your conversations with the defendant increased with regard to your sister?
Yes,
How so?
quite a lot. Almost every day.
Almost every day, and by what means of communication? Would that be text, phone calls?
Either text or phone calls.
And when would you say that started?
I believe it would be May or June.
2020?
Yes.
And what was there a common theme of those texts and phone calls?
It's regarding about their marriage,
And what about it?
that he was suspecting my sister's having an affair.
And how did your brother-in-law, the defendant, feel about that?
He's upset about it.
And what did he want in terms of the marriage?
He wanna keep fighting for my sister. That's what he told me.
Did you take him at his word?
Yes,
Did the defendant ask you for quote-unquote help with your sister?
yes, he did.
And what did you take that to mean when he would ask you for help?
Are there further questions again, please?
Yes. What did you take that to mean when he would ask you for help?
To talk to my sister
About what?
about their marriage, to help him out, to stay with it.
Try to convince her to stay with the marriage?
Yes.
Did you talk with your sister about her marriage with the defendant?
No,
Why not?
because she put a message for us that we couldn't, she would handle her by herself.
Was your sister a private person?
I think so.
So did she want you to get involved in her relationship with the defendant?
No.
Specifically asked you not to get involved?
Yes.
Did the defendant in 2020 talk to you specifically about this person that she thought your sister was having an affair with?
Yes.
And did he make statements at all to you about what he wanted to do to that person?
Yes.
When was the first time that happened?
It was June, I think, of 2020.
Do you remember where you were?
It was a phone conversation.
A phone conversation?
Yes.
And what did the defendant say in that phone conversation?
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds?
Well, can we approach a sidebar?
No, you can tell me now.
Oh, okay. Well,
And I've said no speaking objections. You haven't stated the grounds yet. What is the grounds pursuant to the evidence code?
I believe it'll be hearsay.
It's a defendant's statement.
Overruled.
What did
And
the,
350, yeah, 352.
All right. I need to know why this is different from any of the other times this type of evidence has been elicited. I want to hear your arguments outside the presence of the witness. So we are going to have a sidebar that's going to be outside the presence of the public. I don't want to bias the witness with any potentially inadmissible
Thank you, Your Honor.
evidence. So, sidebar. we're back on the record. The nature of the sidebar will, well, first off, the motion, strike that. We're back on the record. First off, your objection is overruled, and I am going to allow the following testimony that was the subject of the sidebar.
Thank you. Did the defendant say something to you about the person that he believed your wife was having did the defendant say something to you about the person that he believed your sister was having an affair with?
Yes.
And I think you said that was in a phone call. What exactly did the defendant say to you?
He was asking if I know somebody that can get that guy.
Did he explain what he meant by get that guy?
No.
Did he say anything else?
That's it.
Did he say anything about having a certain amount of money?
That was on the January 2nd when we were off-roading on Gladys. He asked me again about that one.
Did he say anything more in this telephone conversation to you?
We're talking about June 2020.
Yes.
Okay, so
But-
let's get into as much of June 2020 first, and then we'll get into the other conversation.
So in June 2020, you just talked about this phone call. Did the defendant say anything more about getting the other guy in that phone call?
No, that's pretty much it.
What was the context of that phone conversation? I mean, was there some conversation that preceded him saying this to you?
Will you repeat that again?
Yes. Did Larry call you or did you call Larry?
He called me.
When he called you, what did he say when he first started talking to you on the phone?
He was saying that he caught my sister with a guy, I think, on a car, on the truck.
Was he upset about that?
He was disappointed.
How long was this phone conversation?
I don't remember.
Would you say 5 minutes, 30 minutes, if you remember?
Probably somewhere in there, five minutes.
During the conversation, when was it then that he said, I want to get the other guy?
It's towards the end of the conversation.
Tell us what you remember about that conversation.
He just told me that I want to get that guy, and I wouldn't let it go.
I wouldn't let it go?
Yes.
Are you saying that you wouldn't let it go, or Larry was saying he wouldn't?
Larry wouldn't let it go.
Did Larry say, I won't let it go, or is that, are you saying that in the conversation Larry wouldn't let it go?
Larry said it.
Did he say anything else about his marriage with your sister during that phone call? Anything else about, is there anything else about that phone conversation that you can remember?
Not that much. It's pretty much that one.
Okay. Did the defendant say words to that same effect on another occasion?
Yes.
When was that?
December 25.
On Christmas?
Yes.
And tell us about what happened.
Which year?
We were on the dining table.
And I'm sorry, this is Christmas of 2020?
Yes.
Whose house were you at?
At my house.
At your house?
Yes.
Okay. And where was Larry?
Towards the end of the dining table, and I was sitting next to him.
Was there anyone else in this conversation?
It's between me and him, but my other sister was close by also.
Which sister?
Jean.
What did the defendant say during this conversation on December 25th, 2020?
He said that the only way that he'll be able to keep my sister is to get rid of that guy.
What did you say?
I couldn't say much.
Did you ever tell him to just let it go?
I think I did just let it go.
And what did the defendant say?
Nah, he couldn't.
Did you observe your sister and the defendant interact on Christmas 2020?
Yes, every time he goes close to her, my sister always tell her to
Your
move
sister-
away.
I'm sorry, every time he, being the defendant, would go close to her,
Yes,
what would your sister do?
my sister would just like say something to stay away from her.
She would say something to stay away from him?
Yeah,
What do you mean by that?
it's like go away. You know?
She would go away or she would say go away?
Yeah, she would say go away.
Did they seem to be getting along on Christmas 2020?
I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
Because every time he goes close to my sister always just like stay away from him. He goes away.
How long was that conversation with the defendant at the table?
We did have quite a few talking there, but only the little part of it. And we were talking about something else when we have a conversation at the table.
And when he said getting that other guy, did he ever specify who he meant?
It's basically, it meant the other guy that he's suspecting that my sister is cheating on him.
Did the defendant ever say at any other time anything about getting the guy?
Yes.
When was that?
January 2nd, when we were at Glamis.
And tell us about that.
This is 2021.
Yes. He invited me to go ride with the Jeep with my sister, and then I told him, yes, I would like to go so that I can try to drive my sister's Jeep.
How did your sister feel about that Jeep?
She loves that Jeep. I've been joking with her to lift it a couple of times.
Did you?
Yeah.
So, did you actually go in the Jeep with the defendant?
Yes.
Where'd you go?
We went off-roading to the dunes.
The dunes?
Yes.
How long were you off on the dunes riding the Jeep?
Looking about 45 minutes an hour.
And what happened during that 45 minutes or hour time frame when you were off on the Jeep with the defendant?
He was driving a little bit too fast, and I got really scared about it. And then I told him, let me drive it on the way back so that I can test it out. And during that conversation, he asked me again if anyone that I know that can get that guy, and he'll be willing to pay $20,000. And then he told me, is it $4,000 is enough for you for getting involved? And I told him, is it $4,000 is enough for you for getting involved with this? Because I know this is thingy. And I told him, I don't want to get involved with it.
So he was going to give you $4,000
Yes,
to
fine.
help him?
Yes, to help him to find somebody to get that guy.
When you were off-roading in the Jeep, was there anyone else in the Jeep with you?
No.
What did you say to him when he said that he would give you $4,000?
My dad told him I don't want to get involved.
Did you say anything else to him about what he had just said to you about paying you $20,000 or having $20,000 to pay?
Did you pray that?
Yes. Did you say anything else to the defendant after he said this to you in the Jeep?
My dad told him just let it go. It's not worth it.
What did he say?
He said I couldn't let it go. I like torturing people or cutting their balls off.
Sorry, sir, can you just let him speak clearly?
Please repeat
You said
yourself. This is it's very important for me to hear, so please make sure that he repeats.
If you could just say it slowly, what did he say to you? I think you had said, you told him to let it go, and
Yes.
what did the defendant say to you?
He said he couldn't let it go. And then he likes torturing people and cutting their balls off.
Did you say anything in response to that?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Was the defendant driving at the time? If you remember?
I think so, he was driving.
And how was he, was there anything unusual about the way he was driving the Jeep? Or anything about the way he was driving that,
It was very scary
why?
because he was treating a Jeep just like a off-road vehicle, just like a buggy, dune buggy.
Why was that scary?
The Jeep is not meant to go past on those sand dunes.
And was the defendant driving fast?
Yes,
Did you say anything?
I told him to slow down a bit.
Were you having fun when he was driving fast? Or were you
It,
concerned?
it started a little bit scary for me, more than scary. Because I'm the passenger.
And I think you said at some point you asked if you could drive.
Yes, on the way back.
How long was this conversation that you had about getting the other guy?
It's probably a few minutes only. It's like a minute or two.
How long were you in Glamis? Do you recall when you got back from Glamis?
I went in there January 1st and then went back home, I think, January 2nd.
Did you have plans with your sister for the following weekend?
Yes,
What were the plans for the following weekend?
we're supposed to go to Big Bear, my friend's cabin.
And tell us about how those plans were made.
It was scheduled December. She was texting me for her daughter's firstborn birthday.
When you say she, are you talking about your sister?
Yes, Maya.
And your family, your siblings, you generally communicated over Facebook Messenger?
Yes,
And is that how May reached out to you in December of 2020?
yes.
And tell us a little bit about how you made plans with May about your friend's cabin.
She was asking me about a cabin, and then I told her I asked my friend, and then she was asking how much for the rent for a cabin, and then I told her the cabin is for free because my friend is like, it's okay just to go in there.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness to show him Exhibit 6?
Yes.
Mr. Tabalanza, I'm going to show you, this is Court's Exhibit 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4, 6-5, 6-6, and 6-7. These are all Facebook business records, but do you recognize the text and the photographs in these messages?
Yes,
Do you recognize this to be a message thread between you and your siblings?
yes,
And is this the message string with your siblings that included the planning of the trip to Big Bear?
yes,
I'm going to show you up on the screen 6-1. Do you recognize 6-1 to be the same exhibit that's in the binder in front of you as of the one up on the screen?
yes,
And I'm just going to direct your attention to the highlighted portion. That's December 18th 2020, and this would be in UTC time. We've heard the conversion for, but the highlighted portion, is this consistent with the message that your sister sent to you with regard to planning the weekend in Big Bear?
Yes.
Saying, FYI, Lara would like to go snowboarding for her B-Day. I'm gonna plan something. If you're interested, let me know. I'm thinking, looks like she misspelled snow, summit, Jan 9, 10, and 11. Do you recognize these messages between you and your siblings to be an accurate representation of the messages you exchanged at that time?
Yes.
And then looking at 6-2, Facebook page 6407, there's a highlighted portion under author JP Tabalanza that says, Tammy, Earl said it's okay to go to his cabin, but not finished yet. It's livable though. And then the next message where a photo was sent with a map. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And is 6-2 up on the screen the same that's in the binder?
Yes.
Did you send these messages to your sister indicating that your friend had a cabin that you could rent?
Yes, it's ready. It's good to go.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
That it was good to go?
Yes.
And then looking at 6-3, Facebook page 6410, does this appear to be additional messages that you exchanged with your siblings about this trip to Big Bear?
Yes.
And I think looks like Maya Millete says, hey, if they're okay with us renting it, that'd be great. We can bring our own stuff. And you say, he said, just let him know. Just bring your sleeping bags, 2 beds with a loft and living room with 3 baths. And then Maya says, January 9th to 11th. Her birthday is the 10th. These are the messages you exchanged with your siblings, or particularly with your sister about scheduling the Big Bear trip?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at 6-4, do you recognize Facebook page 6428 and 6429 to be continued message thread between you and your siblings?
Yes.
And what are we looking at here?
For some reason, somebody dialed a FaceTime, a group Facebook call for the rest of the siblings.
You were actually all in the same place at the same time?
Yes, we were at my house, but different location of the house.
So you did a FaceTime call with each other?
Yes.
Looking at 6-5, this is Facebook pages 6445 and 6446. I'm going to direct your attention to what's in the red box there. This is December 28th, 2020. Your sister Maya Millete saying, we still have it for the dates I asked for, right? Can you maybe ask if we can take the Friday too? So 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then you say, he said it's good. And Maya says, yay, okay, how do I get the key? Were those messages you exchanged with Maya regarding the planning of this trip?
Yes.
And then similarly, looking at page 6446, on December 28th, you say, let's go see some snow, and then your sister Jane Tabalanza Federal says, yeah, let's go. When? He. And Maya says 8, 9, 10, and 11. And those are all messages that were exchanged as part of this planning.
Yes.
Did you have a conversation with your sister about how she would get the key to the cabin?
Yes.
And how was she going to get the key?
There's a key box.
Did your sister tell you when she was going to go to Big Bear?
It should be Friday, January 8th, 2021.
Did you ever give her the code or to get to the key box?
No.
during the week of January the 4th, do you recall your sister reaching out and in the message thread and talking about lift tickets?
Yes, I remember that on the group message.
Okay. And what was it that she was saying about the lift tickets?
I need to read it again.
Okay. I'll direct your attention to Courts Exhibit 6. If you want to turn to that in the binder and just, there's a red box with some highlighted messages and direct you to that and see if that refreshes your memory.
Yes.
What was she saying about the lift tickets?
The tickets for Snow Summit for Saturday, it's just like the amount and the prices.
So she's mentioning that, I'll just go ahead and put it up on the screen here. Lift tickets for Saturday at Snow Summit, $135 for 13 years and up. And this was on January 4th, 2021?
Yes.
Okay. And so, just what was your understanding of why she was texting you that about the lift tickets?
He's getting it ready for the kids, so whoever want to go snowboarding.
Was that the plan, to go snowboarding that weekend?
Yes.
When were you going to Big Bear?
I was planning to go Saturday, January the 9th.
Did you speak to your sister that week about the plans, or did you just communicate via messenger?
It's just via messenger.
On January the 8th, did you have any communication from your sister?
No.
Was that unusual?
No.
It was not unusual that you didn't hear from her? Did you expect to hear from your sister on Friday, January 8th?
Yes. Expect to hear from her.
Did you hear from her at all on January 8th?
No.
Did that cause you any concern?
Yes, a little bit.
Why?
Because of what they're going through.
Looking at Courts Exhibit 6-7, do you recognize the messages on that page, which is Facebook page 6466?
Yes.
And did your sister Jane, this would have been on January the 8th, ask about who was going up to Big Bear?
Yes.
And did your sister respond at all, your sister Maya, respond at all on January the 8th, 2021?
No.
Did you try to call your sister or try to contact her?
Yes.
Were you able to get a hold of her?
No, straight voicemail.
Did you try to call the defendant, your brother-in-law?
Yes.
This was on January 8th.
Yes.
Were you able to get a hold of him?
No, straight voicemail.
Do you recall what time it was that you called?
Called them probably about 12:30.
In the afternoon?
Yes. Either 10:30 or 12:30 in the morning. 10:30 in the morning or 12:30.
This is on January 8th.
Yes.
Did you try to contact anyone else to try to get a hold of anyone, either May or Larry?
I tried to call the landline, no answer also. And then I asked my daughter Trixie to call the cell phone of Laramie and Melanie.
We have heard of your wife going by the name Trix. You just mentioned your daughter.
Yes.
What's your daughter's name?
Trixie.
Is that Trixie?
Yes.
What did you do? Were you able, or was your daughter able to get a hold of her cousin?
No.
What did you do next?
I spoke to my daughter to tell her we should drive to San Diego, and she said no at that time. And I keep searching a way to get a hold of Larry, and I searched on Facebook, tried to message his brother, but he no longer on my friends list that day, on January.
What's Larry's brother's name?
Joel
Do you know where Joel lives?
is in Texas.
Why were you gonna try and call Joel?
Just to find out a way how to get hold of Larry.
Had you previously been friends with Joel on Facebook?
Yes, been a while.
And when you went to try to contact him on Facebook that day, what happened?
He wasn't on my friends list anymore.
What did you do next?
I just waited anxiously, just keep trying to call him.
Had you talked to any of your siblings to see if they had heard from your sister?
I did spoke to my brother, JR. I advised him to go check on our sister because it's unusual that I'm not getting any answer for all the phones in San Diego on my sister's side.
This camera died, didn't it?
The answer. We did, yes.
What happened next? What did you do next?
After I spoke to him,
Yes.
I still waited for my sister to call me back, or anyone in the house call me back.
Did you hear from your sister?
No.
Did your brother JR kind of report back to you?
In the afternoon when he got in there, he reported back to me that he went in there and checked.
Were you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And did your brother JR locate your sister?
No.
Did you ever talk to Larry that night?
He texted me when he got home.
And what did he text you?
He said, "Sorry, I just got home and my cell phone is dead."
What time was this?
It's probably 6 something at night.
Did you text him back? Or did you have a phone call?
I have a phone call out there, I think.
And in that phone call, did you ask him any questions?
Yes.
What did you ask him?
Asked him if they're going to Big Bear and where's my sister.
And what did the defendant say?
He said he just got home and she's still in the room. She locked herself in there.
What specifically did he say about where your sister was?
On the master bedroom.
And you said something about locked herself in the room. Tell us what he said.
He said that he hadn't gone out and he locked herself in there.
That your sister had locked herself in the master bedroom.
Yes.
Did he say how he knew that?
No.
Did you ask him any other questions about that?
No.
Did he seem concerned?
No.
Was that surprising to you? That he didn't seem concerned?
No.
Had you had conversations with your brother-in-law, Larry, that year when he couldn't find your sister?
Yes.
And how did he sound on those prior occasions?
He's asking us to help him out and find her.
Did you hear his tone of voice on those previous occasions?
Yes.
And how did he sound on those previous occasions when he couldn't find your sister?
He was like, he's begging, to help him out.
How did his voice sound? Calm or excited or angry on the prior occasions? Worried?
It's kind of worried.
Was it different than the way he sounded when you talked to him on the phone the night of January the 8th?
Yes,
How?
he's more calm, and he's showing me, and it's kind of weird that he FaceTime me because we never talk on FaceTime.
How long did you talk on the phone?
On FaceTime?
No, first you talked on the phone, right?
No, he just, I think I remember he just FaceTime me that time.
So you,
Yeah,
You
so,
don't-
yeah, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah.
Tell us what you remember.
What I remember, he just FaceTimed me, and then I was asking her, where's my sister? And then he said, she's under her room. She locked herself in, and she never come out yet.
And so you remember having just one FaceTime call with with Larry that night.
Yes,
And did you ask him where he was that day?
yes, I did.
Where did he say he was?
He said he went to work and dropped off his son at 6:30 in the morning to his aunt's place.
To his aunt's?
Yes,
How long was that FaceTime call?
about a minute or two, somewhere in there. Because he's showing me also, this is my life with the kids.
What do you mean? What was he showing you?
He's showing me on the FaceTime that he was with the kids, and he was laying down on the bed with the kids around him.
I don't know if this might be a good point to break.
Sir, we're going to recess for the evening. We're going to be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Resume with your testimony. Do we need to put anything else on the record?
Not for me.
Then